Hey headphone people, MrAyrit here, got another review for you today. This time we're looking at a hybrid tube amplifier that was sent out by Apos Audio, so thank you to them. This is the Xduoo TA20, and this is kind of like their mid-range amplifier. So at the kind of lower end of things, you've got the MT604 and the MT602, which actually I have a 602 as well that I'll be reviewing at some point in time. And then there's some other stuff that's higher tier than this. So this kind of sits right in the middle. I think it's around a $400 amp. It is just an amp, no DAC or anything inside of this. It does about 2 watts into 32 ohms, so it's reasonably powerful. And so, let's kind of dig into this. I guess if I was going to give you the short version of this, I'd say this amp probably sounds just about like you'd expect it to sound. And but let's dig into what it looks like, and then we'll talk more about what that means. So it's kind of a nice design, understated, black, pretty simple, kind of rectangular box. You can see we got our balance on the front. We got some indicator LEDs right here, 1/4 inch. You got a little volume knob that's kind of like clicky, like it's kind of stopped, like it's not a continuous scroll. It's got little kind of points that it goes in, and then this is also a button too, because that's how you switch inputs and things like that. And then this is a little LED display, blue, that shows you what's going on, and gives you the volume and stuff like that. Checking out the back, you can see there's quite a bit going on the back here, which is a good thing because that means this has some versatility built into it. So you can have actually 3 different sources coming into this thing, which I think is pretty cool. And then you've got also an RCA out, so it can be used as a preamp. So 2 sets of RCAs in, and then 2, just balanced, a set of balanced in, right? Got typical PC power cable here, and then toggle on off on the back. So bottom, nice couple of rubber feet there, feels very solid on the desk, looks good. The one kind of unique build feature of this, like that's took me a little bit by surprise, is it comes with these little tube guard things, and they go in. They're magnetized, and they kind of slip in like that to where, I don't really see them being super necessary, but it looks kind of cool. So, it's all right with me. It's all right. You can choose to leave them off if you want to, but I definitely think it looks cooler with them in. This thing uses 12 AU7 tubes, so pretty easily found tubes, lots of different varieties out there, so you can tube roll to your heart's content pretty much, but keep in mind that you'll have to buy a couple of them when you're doing that. So I think that pretty much runs down the build here on this thing. It's all good. I don't really have any complaints with it at all. It functioned perfectly fine in all the conditions I used it in, so I don't think you have really much to worry about as far as the build goes and the function of it goes. So what does it sound like? Well, it probably pretty well sounds like you'd expect it to sound. So what I mean by that is I'd say it's got an appropriate amount of detail for the price range. And I would say that, I've got several different solid state amps on hand. So Singer SA1, A90. I've actually got a couple of more expensive ones that I didn't really put up against this, but and then I also have, for a full tube, I've got the Bottlehead Crack with the Speedball. Now, when I say it sounds like you'd expect it to sound, I mean it's a hybrid tube amp, so it falls somewhere in between solid states and a full tube amp. So it's a little bit richer and more colored than the Singer SA1 and the A90, but it's not as colored or maybe as distorted as on the Bottlehead Crack. Now, I tried it with quite a few different headphones. I never thought there was really a bad pairing with it, but the one that I really listened to it the most with was, I had 2 of them. I did the 177X Go, which I really liked it with this, and then the Aria Stealth Edition, which out of all the amps I have on hand, including a Burson Soloist, I thought it sounded the best with this guy. Now, why is that? It's because it adds a little more liveliness. The Aria's, like, I feel like it's a pretty flat headphone, so this brought a little more life to that. I thought the soundstage from the TA20 was a little bit smaller, more intimate, which the Aria is, you know, kind of default wide headphone, which almost creates kind of a disconnect on the wrong amps or amps that are already wide. I thought it was a little more like three-dimensional than something like the A90, so a little more depth in the presentation. So all in all, I just kind of found the Aria Stealth Edition the most engaging on this hybrid tube amp, and I think that's saying a lot about this thing. I think it says that this amp, again, has it's not too crazy with its coloration, but there's like just enough there to make it a little bit fun, and it, you know, keeps that detail so that the resolution is still good. Maybe it's not quite as well extended as something like the Singzer, the SA, or the Singzer or the A90, but it does pack like a nice little punch to it though. So I thought it had a little more weight in the low end than those two amps did, which again I found pleasing and I thought matched up with the Aria Stealth quite well. So all in all, I think, you know, I feel like maybe it's priced a little high at $400, but I mean, if you could catch it on sale or catch, you know, a decent deal on it on the used market, I feel like this amp is quite capable and sounds pretty darn good with almost anything I put it on. Again, 177X was one that I liked on it, and other Beyers. So I got the 880 600 ohm, which I thought did fine on it as well, and the 990 600 ohm, which I thought did well on it. So everything I threw at it sounded good. So yeah, nice little tube amp. And you know, it doesn't have it definitely has, like I said, that richness, but it also is pretty solid and not too colored, right? It's not messing with the music too much, just enough, right? Just a little bit of spice on there, which adds some interest, and maybe will give you a little break if you're mainly listening to something that's like a super clean solid state. This might be enough to switch it up without going full-blown tubes. It certainly plays better with the planars that I have on hand than the Bottlehead Crack does, which the bass kind of just falls apart when I put the planars on that thing. So yeah, I think it's a good choice. I would be looking at it if I needed a hybrid tube amp in this price range. I think it's a contender. Probably the big competition for this is going to be like the Liquid Platinum. It would be kind of going right up against that. I did own the Liquid Platinum at one point, but it's been long enough that I don't think I can draw any like real comparisons between the two. But this or the Liquid Platinum is probably what you're pretty much looking at if you're looking for a hybrid tube amp in this price range. And from what I remember about the Liquid Platinum, I didn't particularly love it. So I think, you know, I think it's worth looking at this and that one at the same time. And kind of making a decision based off of that. Probably not as much information as I wish I could give you, but that's what I got. I don't want to mislead you thinking I can make that comparison off of memory. So I think that does it. Thank you again to Apos for sending this out. I appreciate that. They didn't ask me to say anything specific or anything like this, so all this is my own stuff, and you know, they're pretty good about that as well. So thanks to them, and then thanks to you for watching, of course. And if you thought this was useful, consider subscribing to the channel. I really would appreciate that, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.